The Knicks have 2 final roster spots remaining, and given the injuries they're experiencing right now, they are absolutely going to fill those positions. And according to one NBA insider, he notes that the New York Knicks are currently looking to make that final decision on who gets those roster spots. We're going to break down this report and let you know exactly what players the New York Knicks are targeting. All of this and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks are currently making a decision on their final roster spots. Isaiah Hartenstein, OG Anunoby, Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle. The list goes on and on. We have just been riddled with injuries. We've caught the injury bug, but thankfully, we are finally in all-star break. All of our players are going to get a long, nice rest, including Jalen Brunson. I know he's playing in the three-point contest and in the all-star game, but thankfully, those things are not too taxing on the body. He should still get a lot of rest and relaxation, and he deserves this moment. So I don't want to hear anything about him playing or anything like that. Jalen Brunson has worked hard for this, and he deserves this. But it begs the question, who are the New York Knicks looking to add? Who are the players are the New York Knicks looking to target to put on this roster to fill in these final roster spots? Well, shout out to Ian Begley, an SNY NBA insider, because he gave us the following updates on his report in his mailbag review. When answering a question from a fan stated, are the Knicks in the buyout market for another big man for insurance purposes, Ian Begley gave the following response, and he helps break down what the New York Knicks are currently doing to try to fill in those final roster spots. Per Begley, I don't think they are heavily involved at the moment regarding the buyout market. The Knicks have 2 open roster spots, so they can sign a veteran big man, but entering the week, they were not in significant talks with any senders available via the buyout market. Counting Taj Gibson, the Knicks currently have 13 players on standard NBA deals. League rules state that teams must carry a minimum of 14 players on standard contracts. They can dip in below 14, but only for a 2-week period. New York's deal at the trade deadline to acquire Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks left them with 13 players on standard NBA deals. So the club will need to add a player late next week. This is extremely important to note here, folks. Because the New York Knicks are under that 14 limit threshold, they now have another week before they must add another player. So if you were thinking, well, they're probably not going to add another player or sign another player or convert another player. No, they absolutely have to. They need to add another player to this roster by next week. So best believe they're going to do so. According to Begley, one avenue the Knicks have been exploring, per people familiar with the matter, signing one or more of their G League players to a standard contract. This would be a reward/promotion for a player or players who have excelled with Westchester. In my opinion, this is absolutely the way the New York Knicks should go. There are a lot of players right now dominating in Westchester, doing so good, looking so well, that it makes sense for them to be rewarded and get that standard NBA contract. One of those players that comes to mind, and we saw him play last night, Jacob Toppin. Now, I know he didn't have a great showing or a very impactful showing, but let me say this. It's going to take more than one game getting used to your surroundings and the players around you before you can have a legitimate impact. So before we go ahead and kill Jacob Toppin, what he's doing, the fact that he's a G League performer and not an NBA performer, before we criticize him to that level, to that degree, let's let him get acclimated to his surroundings, to his new environments, with the new players he's playing with, the new schemes he's running with Tom Thibodeau. Let's let him learn all of that. Get a couple of games underneath his belt, playing consistent minutes. And then let's talk about it. Then let's talk about what he's doing and his impact. Because in my opinion, if you give that kid consistent minutes, you're going to see him perform. It's no joke that he's performing in the G League. He's doing that because he's playing consistent minutes. I think he could give you 10, 12 points a night. He could give you 5, 6 rebounds a night, depending how many minutes he plays for you. He's a tough defender as well, too. Not like his brother Obi Toppin. Jacob Toppin actually plays very good defense, and Tom Thibodeau would love him for that. His size is perfect for what you want as a wing right now. We need more wings already on this roster so he can fill a need and fill a position immediately. I would love for the New York Knicks to sign him. Another thing that we need for the bench is somebody to come in when Jalen Brunson is out of the game to help stabilize the offense. Right now, we really don't have somebody doing that. Alec Burks is trying to do that. Miles McBride trying to do that, but unfortunately not being able to do so at a consistency that we need off the bench. Maybe you can throw in Charlie Brown Jr. in there, sign him to a standard NBA deal because he's been balling as well too, and maybe he can take a little bit of that and add it to the New York Knicks for the bench. And if he does, give you maybe 10, 15 points a night. If he plays 18 minutes a game, that's all going to be up to Tom Thibodeau and the coaching staff and who they're playing against. If it's a blowout, or maybe you believe in this kid and you think he can give you this minutes consistently off the bench and it can be productive minutes. I think he's earned it. He deserves it. And if the Knicks are going to do this based on what NBA insider Ian Begley is suggesting here, where they could go ahead and they could reward the G League players based off of their great play in Westchester, then I think Jacob Toppin and Charlie Brown Jr. are both well deserving in terms of trying to get those final roster spots. Now, maybe you could argue that the Knicks need more size, more front court depth. And if that's the case, I'm okay with the New York Knicks going to the buyout market and looking for a veteran big man that they can add to the bench. But hopefully you add him to one of those roster spots. And with the other roster spot, you sign and reward one of these guys from the G League. And if I'm picking any one of those guys, it has to be Jacob Toppin. He has been balling out in the G League, doing everything he can to get noticed. And everybody, if you've been watching or looking at the G League, has been noticing him and his play. It's just been sensational. Add him to the roster, add him to this team, and show the Westchester players that if you play hard enough, if you play good enough, then the New York Knicks will reward you with potentially a standard NBA contract. And that is definitely something worth playing for and worth fighting for if you're in the G League. This is a statement if you're the New York Knicks, and I really hope they make it by adding Jacob Toppin to this roster. Ian Begley continues in his article by giving us some more information regarding this scenario. According to Begley, in this hypothetical scenario, I'd be surprised if New York entered the playoffs with Sims and Achua as their only healthy big men. So they probably would pursue a veteran big man via the buyout market. An important date here is March 1st. Any player waived by March 1st is eligible for a postseason roster. It's logical to assume that one variable here is the health of Isaiah Hartenstein. If the Knicks think Hartenstein's Achilles ailment could flare up again late in the regular season or in the postseason, wouldn't they have to pursue a veteran big man? If Hartenstein's unavailable, the Knicks would have just two healthy big man centers in Jericho Sims and Precious Achua. New York hopes that Mitchell Robinson can return later on in the regular season, but it's probably hard to know at this point if Robinson will be ready to play significant minutes in the postseason. Very significant updates here by Ian Begley, and it all makes sense. Obviously, the New York Knicks are not going to target any type of big man if you feel like you're going to have enough big men come the postseason. If Isaiah Hartenstein's injury is not deemed too serious, even though an Achilles injury is probably always going to be deemed somewhat serious, if they feel like he can play through it, it's not going to be an issue for a long-term period, then likely they're not going to go to the veteran big man market to try to get somebody off of that market to add to this roster, which then gives a lot of possibility that the New York Knicks are more likely to target a player in the G League and sign them to a standard NBA deal. So I do like that possibility and that prospect. However, it is also good to note that Begley did mention that March 1st is a very critical day because, again, as he mentions here, any player waived by March 1st is eligible for a postseason roster. And that's very important because we know the New York Knicks and we know how they operate. Leon Rose, Worldwide West, Gerson Rosas. They are a very patient front office. They don't show all their cards at once, and they won't let you know the moves they're going to make until it's the very last second. So I don't think at all it would surprise anybody if they made a signing going into maybe March 1st, waiting for that certain player to become available and signing him to the roster. That's been what the New York Knicks have done ever since Leon Rose has taken over. And maybe you can criticize it here and there, But if you love what's going on right now, you love what the New York Knicks have right now, and you love the position the New York Knicks are in right now, then you have to praise Leon Rose and where we are. So if the patient game has gotten us here, then keep playing it, Leon, because who knows? Maybe you keep playing that game and we get the players that we actually need on this roster to help us compete on a higher level that we never thought this Knicks team could do. Because we don't know what players, if we add them to this roster, how their impact could affect this team and what they could do with significant minutes if they play significant minutes. And with the injury bug hitting this team as hard as it has, we probably know that if you're added to this roster, you're likely going to play heavy minutes. If there isn't a veteran big man on the buyout market that the Knicks can add to help their roster today and in the future, then in my opinion, let's go ahead and do what you're trying to do anyways. Something you're thinking about doing regardless. Looking at your G League roster and adding players from there to your current roster. Standardizing their deals, giving them NBA contracts, making their dreams come true, and making a statement that you could potentially get a contract with the New York Knicks. And honestly, I think that's what every single Westchester player wants at the end of the day. And if they see this happening, that gives them even more encouragement and even more energy to play even harder in the G League. And that's exactly what you want to see happen. I hope the New York Knicks do this. I'm not sure which direction they're going to go. If you're asking me, I think they might sign one veteran big man. I don't know who that's going to be. And potentially sign one G League player to a standard NBA deal. Either way, it's going to be very exciting to see what the New York Knicks do moving forward. I hope the New York Knicks fill in these roster spots sooner rather than later. But Leon Rose is a very patient man. And because of that, I know and expect the Knicks are not going to rush into anything. They're going to wait and be patient. But what about you guys? What do you think about the New York Knicks potentially looking at the G League and the buyout market to fill in these final roster positions? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.